Hello, everyone. My name is Myra Cerrato. I'm a McNair scholar currently in my fourth year of undergrad studying psychology and human development family science at the University of Connecticut. Today, I will be presenting my McNair research poster. This summer, under the guidance of Dr. Stephanie Milan from the Clinical Psychology Department, I researched COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy in mothers from both the U.S. and the U.K. Although the percentage is unknown today, to overcome this pandemic, the U.S. would need to achieve herd immunity. One of the major barriers in the way of achieving this goal is COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy. Past research on vaccine behaviors primarily focused on adults' own vaccine beliefs and behaviors. In light of the pandemic and the struggle to increase vaccination rates, COVID-19 vaccines have been made available in the U.S. to children as young as 12 years old, which then presents parents with the major decision of whether or not to vaccinate their children. Therefore, it would be of great value to identify which parents are reluctant to the vaccine and why to improve targeted vaccine messaging. Mothers with PTSD or a trauma history may be increasingly hesitant because of institutional distrust, especially in places where the vaccine has been politicized like in the U.S. The following study examines if mothers with PTSD history differ in vaccine beliefs and behaviors than mothers with no mental health history or with a different mental health disorder. We hypothesize that mothers with a PTSD history will be less likely to have gotten the COVID-19 vaccine for themselves. There were two studies used in this project. Sample number 1 included 215 American mothers from a longitudinal study of parenting risk. All of the mothers in this sample have a positive mental health diagnosis. For the purpose of this project, the data used here is from time point 3, and this data was collected in May and June of 2021. Approximately 64 mothers from this sample had a PTSD history, whereas the other 151 mothers had a different diagnosis, which was depression or anxiety. Sample number 2 included 354 mothers from the U.S. and the U.K. that participated in our survey. The mothers had a child between the ages of 10 and 18 years old. The mothers were divided into one of 3 groups based on their mental health background: no mental health diagnosis, PTSD history, or a different mental health history, which was anxiety or depression. This data was collected early July of 2021. Approximately 67 mothers belonged to the PTSD history group, 179 mothers belonged to the different mental health history group, and the remaining 108 mothers had no mental health history. To conduct this study, we first had to create a survey through Qualtrics, which measured the participants' demographics, the mental health history and current symptoms of both the child and the parents' vaccines, beliefs and behaviors for themselves and their child, institutional and medical trust measures, and we also had open-ended questions regarding vaccination reasoning. This survey was then distributed to the mothers through Prolific. Once responses were collected, I thematically coded the participants' open-ended responses for vaccine reasoning based on previous vaccine hesitancy models. Some of these codes include worrying about side effects or the speed of the vaccine's production for reasons against the vaccine, as well as reasons for the vaccine, like for the betterment of society or because of their trust in vaccines. We also conducted statistical tests using SPSS, a widely used statistical software in psychology, to test for group differences. The data I'm about to present is looking to help answer the question if mothers with a PTSD history are less likely to have gotten the COVID-19 vaccine for themselves. In Figure 1, using a chi-square test, we tested for differences in vaccination status in mothers with versus without a PTSD history using the data from Sample 1. About 50% of mothers in the non-PTSD group had received a COVID-19 vaccine, compared to about 25% of mothers with PTSD history that had received a COVID-19 vaccine. The chi-square test suggests that mothers with a PTSD history were significantly less likely to have received a COVID-19 vaccine compared to mothers with other diagnoses, as suggested by the p-value of 0.003. Figure 2 is using data from sample 2 to test for differences in vaccination status in both UK and US mothers with either a PTSD history, a different mental health history, or no mental health history. As you can see, the UK mothers were significantly more likely to have gotten the vaccine for themselves than US mothers. US mothers with PTSD history were significantly less likely to have gotten the vaccine compared to the other US groups. However, this difference was not observed in the UK sample. In conclusion, the data suggests that mothers in the US and with a PTSD history were significantly less likely to have received a COVID-19 vaccine. The US sample showed more of a difference between mental health history groups than the UK did. Also, mothers in the UK reported higher vaccination rates across all mental health groups. An important observation from this study was that mothers more often reported a lack of confidence in the vaccine safety. Yet, it's important to keep in mind that the politicization of the vaccine may have contributed to these differences shown between the two countries. In future studies, it may be of interest to examine if institutional or medical field distrust is a contributing factor for differences seen in mothers with PTSD. Next school year, I will be participating in an experimental study to examine different types of vaccine message framing for mothers with a trauma history. Before I conclude my presentation, I would like to thank Dr. Milan and Dr. Gilberti for allowing me the opportunity to conduct research this summer and for their mentorship. I would also like to thank the TRIO and McNair Scholars Program for all the opportunities they have provided me with, and of course, the University of Connecticut. Thank you, and this concludes my presentation.